welcome to the new channel, Outdoor Gadgets. So, I've got two sat phones, and I thought what better way than to test them for the purposes of a YouTube video than to come to the glorious island of Tenerife. So at the moment I am, according to the Garmin, 11,500 feet up Mount Teide, and this is about the altitude of the cable car, which takes you from the surface, or from about 7,000 feet. But where I'm actually going is up there. So I'm going to the peak of Teide to do the test of the two sat phones, as you'll see if you stay with the video. So, without further ado, let's go. So, pretty much at the peak now. So here's the first sat phone test, the Thuraya. Now in theory, this may not work because of where the satellite is. The Thuraya, we're right on the edge here. The best chance of reception is up here, I would have thought, 12,000 feet. Let's have a quick scout round, see what reception we can get, if anything. Searching network. This is the problem with Thuraya, is when you're in a coverage area, it's excellent because the tariffs are excellent. The call quality is really good, and the handoffs are much fewer than on Iridium, of course, because there's only two satellites. But there is nothing up here at all. That's frustrating. Yeah, that's frustrating. Let me just see if I can. Right, so we have picked up coverage just with Thuraya. So I'm going to place a call home now. See what my wife thinks. But oddly, I need to be pointing that way, whichever that way is. Let's see. It's connecting. No, it's not. Now that is frustrating. Let's try that again. Really struggling with Thuraya. Ah, it's ringing. That is bizarre. Hello, it's me. There might be a delay on this phone because I'm using the Thuraya, and it's so if you listen to what I've got to say, then you respond, okay? Yeah, so there's a definite delay. I'm just talking to the camera, but the call quality seems to be okay. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Yeah, well, that's okay. That's to be expected. It's not going to be like a standard 4G call. Good. Okay, well, let me call you back from the other phone. Stand by. So that wasn't bad, but there was the notorious delay, and that's purely because there is such a huge distance between the phone and the satellite. But we'll go into more detail about that when I get home and we can talk a bit more. So let's try Iridium now and see how that works up here at 12,500 feet. So let's power up the Iridium phone. Now I should say this one does sometimes take a little bit longer to find a signal for some reason. It shouldn't, because the Iridium has low Earth orbit satellites, so there's a constellation of about 66 satellites constantly orbiting, so it hands off from one to another every 10 minutes or so, and that's sometimes where you get the call drops. But it's searching for Iridium now. It's saying it's got full 5 coverage, and the coverage is normally excellent on Iridium, I will say. may just be taking a few seconds to hook onto a satellite, purely because it's the last time I used it was in the UK. Searching for Iridium, come on. So in theory we shouldn't have the call, well, we won't have the delay between the phone and the satellite, so it should be a more natural conversation. Okay, so we now have full signal on the Iridium. Let's make a call home. Hello, it's me again on the different phone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, it should be. This is the more global reach phone. The other one we're right on the fringe of the coverage, but this one I can hear you fine. So I'm at the top. I'm at 12,500 feet, looking over the Canary Islands. It's excellent. Yes, I can see steam coming up from the volcano. I think it's going to go. I think it's going to go. No, I'm only joking. Yes, I will. Yeah, I will. There's not much cellular coverage up here. In fact, there's nothing. So I'll get some photographs and I'll send them over to you when I get back down to the base station, the cable car station. Yeah. Well, I'm a seasoned hill climber now. I'm a seasoned mountaineer now, aren't I? Right, I'll let you go because I've got to get... No, I know. It is. Right, I've got to go because I've got to get back down for 5 o'clock to the cable car. Okay, so, as expected, that was a much more natural conversation, and that's because, simply, the satellites that power Iridium are much closer, much closer to the Earth. They use what's called low Earth orbit, LEO, and there are 66 of them. And when I show you some graphics of where the Thuraya satellites are, you'll understand why we've had the problems we've had today, albeit we're at 12,500 feet above sea level, which is where you'd expect to get probably, well, there's nothing between here and the sky. So that's been a good experiment, and after watching and after going through the costs and various connotations with these phones, there are other sat phones out there. I've tried them all. I've tried Globalstar, I've tried Inmarsat, but these two have always consistently been the best for me. Why do I keep Thuraya? Put simply, it is by far the cheapest, and we'll go into the costs. But the benefit with this one is you can choose when you sign up either a UK or a US mobile number, and therefore people from home, because I'm UK based obviously, so family, friends can call me or text me on this for no extra charge. It's even if you've got inclusive minutes, you get them included to call a satellite phone, and that's really handy. And it's actually cheaper when you're outside the EU to make calls from this than it is from a mobile phone. So it swings and roundabouts really. Yeah, there you go. Like I said, I've got to get back down to Earth now, back down to the cable car station. So hi folks, I'm back now from the Canary Islands. Actually that video was taken a few months ago. So to close out then, what I said we'd do is just talk about the two comparisons between Iridium and Thuraya, because there are very clear differences. So one is, let's talk about coverage, because that's really important when you're choosing a satellite phone. So the two networks, Iridium and Thuraya, are very different. So Thuraya covers about 2/3 of the Earth's surface. So I'll pop a coverage map up here again, and you can make your mind up. If it's got coverage where you're going to go, then it is the cheapest handset by far. And we'll come back to costs in a moment, and I'll tell you why that's the case. So the two networks are very different. One of the reasons why I really like Iridium is because it is apparently global coverage anywhere on Earth. And certainly I've travelled to a lot of places with it, and I've yet to find somewhere where I couldn't get a signal. As we saw in the video, that's slightly different with Thuraya because they only have 2 satellites in geostationary orbit, so that means they don't move. They sit fairly south of the equator, and yet we were, as you see on the map, fairly westwards and actually right on the fringe of coverage. So, you know, it perhaps wasn't a fair test in that sense because I wasn't expecting great things. But as you saw, we got a signal, we were able to call home. But of course, buying the handset is just part of the story with any type of mobile device. It's the same as your iPhone. You then need a network plan to actually run the phone day to day. Powers your number, powers your SIM card. And that's where the networks are very, very different. And this is where it's a little bit eye-watering with Iridium. But it works for me. So let's go through the costs. So I pay about $65 a month, US dollars, and that's converted into sterling when I get my bill. So about £50, something like that. For that, I get 30 inclusive minutes. But it's a regular payment. You have to pay it every month. So you are talking about over the year, roughly, with the exchange rate, it fluctuates slightly, about £600 a year. And that's even if you don't use the phone. But the beauty of Iridium, as I said in the video, is that for that you get 30 inclusive minutes per month outbound. But the real sweet spot with that phone and that plan is that you can choose a UK or a US mobile number. So I obviously chose a UK number, +447 XYZ. The beauty of that is that my relatives, or in fact anybody who has that number, can call me from the UK or with their UK mobile number using their inclusive plan. So in Britain I have an EE mobile phone, it gives me unlimited minutes. So anybody with unlimited minutes could call me and chatter all day to me on my satellite phone for no extra cost. It doesn't cost me anything to receive the call, doesn't cost them anything to call it. And ditto with texting. Now that's one thing to bear in mind if you're shopping for Iridium plans. Be very careful here because the entry-level plan comes in, I think when I looked, only about $10 or $15 a month cheaper, but that does charge to receive a call, and that's the key difference. So if you can get people to call you like I do with my wife, I often say to her when I'm abroad, just give me a call, I'll text her, say give me a call, and I could be up a mountain or wherever I am, wherever there's no cellular coverage, and we can chat all night. Not that I'd want to, but if I did, then that call can go on all night. It's not going to cost her, it's not going to cost me any extra money over and above my monthly subscription. So let's look at Thuraya pricing now, because Thuraya pricing is also very interesting. It's prepaid, so that means you don't pay for anything that you don't particularly use. So there is an annual activation fee, I think they call it, of $39 US, but from there you can just top it up and just pay as you go. So if you don't use it one month, you don't pay anything, simple as that. And that's the sweet spot with the Thuraya prepaid plans, and that's the one that I'm on with the XT Lite. But you might think, well, what if you need to use it in an emergency? Well, you can prepay it. The beauty is you can prepay it in the field. So if you're up a mountainside, if you're in the countryside, middle of the ocean, with Thuraya, you just preload your credit card into a website, and then you call their top-up number, and you can top it up. It happens instantly, bills your credit card, Bob's your uncle, and you can top it up, I think, up to £200 or £300 a month. Maybe it's more now. That was certainly the case when I took my plan out some years ago. So there you go, 2 really useful handsets. So one thing to bear in mind, the final thing I'm just going to tell you about satellite phones is, I'm obviously a big fan, and I hate being off the grid, so I love being able to talk to people and just having that emergency communications ability. And with me all the time I carry a whole raft of emergency communications equipment, including some Garmin stuff which can talk to their international rescue station in Dallas. I'm not a world agent, I'm not a spy, but it does give me that reassurance when I'm halfway up mountains. But the final point I do want to let you know, if you're not aware of this already, and it's a really important point if you don't want to get arrested when you arrive somewhere, is satellite phones in some countries are illegal, and if they're not illegal, in some countries they are heavily restricted, i.e. you need a permit to use them, you need to get this in advance. So I'm just looking at a list in front of me here on my iPad. What I can tell you is that possessing a satellite phone is illegal in Bangladesh. It's a big no-no. You will go to jail if you are caught with a satellite phone in Bangladesh. it's illegal to have a sat phone in China. In Cuba, it's illegal. In India, only satellite phones using Inmarsat are legal. Everything else is illegal. And there was a case a few years ago where a ship was caught with a satellite phone. They traced the signal and arrested the captain. In Libya, you're only allowed to use Thuraya. So you see, these are the things you need to research before you buy a satellite phone. If you go to any of these places, I mean, I don't go to Libya, so it's not a problem for me. Let's have a look. Nigeria, satellite phones, banned. North Korea, obviously. Chad, Russia, you have to get approval ahead of time to use your sat phone in Russia. Sri Lanka, you need a license to use a sat phone. And in Sudan, like many electronic devices, sat phones are illegal. So, well worth bearing in mind, because if you think about it, the nature of the person who buys a satellite phone is going to be a frequent international traveller, or is going to be somebody who goes to places slightly off the beaten track. You know, I've never been to Sudan, but chances are I probably never will. But people doing exploration, curious people, will visit some of these countries quite innocently, taking the sat phone with them for nothing other than the safety, the backup. And yet, so often can be illegal and can land you in big trouble. So there you go, satellite phones. See you next time.